In the history of the galaxy, never has a 50-year-old toddler created this much of a stir.
Star Wars fans have fallen in love with the bug-eyed, cooing alien.
And the big breakout star of that series is Baby Yoda, who I think might be able to unite the country.
Baby Yoda fever sweeping the country. The nation is crying out for Baby Yoda.
That's Grogu on top of the world. But getting there was not easy, and it all starts with one man.
But I do feel confident going in, and I get the suspicion that I'll be doing more of these. And, it could potentially change the nature of my whole life and my whole career.
That's the voice of Jon Favreau. He's directed some of the most influential movies of the 21st century. But he always had a soft spot for one franchise.
I was an usher in a movie theater when Return of the Jedi was in theaters, and I was there watching from the audience. And it's always something I loved, and for all the stars to align that I would be able to write a story and that we would have a medium to do it in, and to have Kathy and everybody at Lucasfilm be open to me bringing an idea to them. And then also the big part is me and Dave getting to know each other.
Dave and I met each other up at the ranch. I was mixing Iron Man.
Yeah, I was making Clone Wars Season 1.
I brought him into the Kurosawa stage and showed him, he's the first person ever to see Iron Man. And I was the first person
to see Clone Wars, you and your son.
And I said to him, this is awesome. If you ever need a voice, let me know.
I just happened to need a voice. That day, George had created a character named Pre Vizsla. Would you like to be a Mandalorian?
Stolen from your Jedi temple
by my ancestors during the fall.
Mandalorians were my favorite characters.
Then he came up with an idea.
And then I came in. I had been working on this idea for a long time because it was really compelling to me what happened after the celebration of the Empire falling, the Revolution successful, and what happened.
Now what?
And so the idea of that world of after Return of the Jedi and what would happen and the type of characters that would survive and what it was like until the New Republic took over. I was the right age, so when I saw the beginning of the first Star Wars film, and the cantina and the characters and the smugglers and the underworld.
Scum and villainy.
The scum and villainy.
Yeah.
To me, that was a very rich environment to tell a story in a rich tone.
So when we found out that Disney Plus was going to let us make TV shows, we got so excited. And Jon sat down and pitched the idea of Mandalorian, and it was instantaneous. We were so excited.
Now they needed someone to be the face, or rather, to hide their face from the show.
I remember getting a call from my agent saying that Jon Favreau wants to meet you regarding a Star Wars project. And so I immediately said, when and where. I wanted to meet Jon Favreau. I didn't care what he wanted me to do. I had no idea what it was, whether it was a feature or, a cereal box. I had no idea. I go and I meet Jon at his office, and he invites me into this room that is basically corner to corner covered in story illustrations of this project that he's working on, and there are all of these incredible images of a Mandalorian character.
And I'm seeing all of this, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to audition for? Bug or the robot? He's like, you're the Mandalorian. I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold. The Mandalorian is a mysterious, lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy. Some might say he has questionable moral character. I'm not.
That harkens to the, best of the samurai movies and the westerns. And in talking to Jon, what would you like me to watch, I asked him. And he immediately brought up Sergio Leone and Akira Kurosawa, Yojimbo, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I love the opportunity to make him as human and as accessible as possible, which is strange to say because it's impossible to get to him because he's covered in armor from head to toe. And yet the idea is that he's relatable. We're all kind of covered in our own armor, and terrified of taking that armor off. And that's the thing that crosses him over into a character that we're all going to really want to follow.
But they ran into an issue. How do you make a Star Wars project on a television budget? Their first obstacle were green screens.
And now instead of having a green screen that you have to move around in light, which took forever, and that was really the frustration that led to these innovations, which was how could we do that without green screens? So it's like we took all the technology that I've been messing around with from all those other projects and applying it to a very specific application that would work for this.
We've all seen movies, TV shows, where the lighting on the day didn't necessarily match the post-production work that was added many, many months later.
Enter the volume.
The volume is 21 feet tall, it's 75 feet in diameter, run by 7 machines, pumping the visuals onto the screen that's being created in pre-production.
We have put together a system whereby which we can have game engine, real-time render, and video wall technology coming together to create a backdrop for the big, beautiful world of Star Wars.
If you look at visual effects heavy films, you've got a film set and then it's going to go to post and it's going to get the world in. Here we're considering all of that at the same time, and how do we create a background and foreground that live together on the volume harmoniously.
You could switch between the Iceland location to the desert location, all within the same day of shooting.
The volume was especially useful on The Mandalorian for one simple reason.
The Mandalorian's helmet is such a key aspect of the project, and if we did not have the volume technology that you're describing, he could have been shot against a green screen or a blue screen. You'd have all these reflections that we would have to take care of, basically make his helmet CG. So it was another reason why this just really worked so well.
It also helped the actors immerse themselves in scenes.
That you're on these amazing sets and there's so much to take in. It's kind of like a sensory overload sometimes, because you're there, and if you're in a vehicle, it's moving. It's actually moving, and if you don't look at the camera and the crew, you feel like you're moving, and if the technology, for whatever reason, stops, then you find yourself jolted because you're like you're going to fall over. But it's just because your senses have bought into it all. So, I mean, those are the things I remember more than anything.
We walked onto sets that, I got to tell you, people spend an awful lot of money on $100 million, $200 million movies, and they don't look half as good as what we had on this.
The volume was just one part of Jon Favreau's production philosophy.
This gives me a way to be somebody who stands for the cohesiveness of the community and also the nexus point between storytelling and never letting technology lose sight of the fact that it has to serve story and creative vision.
Jon made a passing comment about, we should build miniatures. But it was during a conversation where we were throwing lots of different ideas about how they used to do the old movies. I actually dismissed it. I didn't think it was something he was actually requesting, we should build miniatures, because it's not typically how visual effects are done these days. So a couple of weeks later, we were in a review, and he was looking at something, he said, we should really talk about building a miniature. And I'm thinking, that's the second time he said this. Jon, are you serious? You want to build a miniature of the Razor Crest? And he said, well, why wouldn't we? And then all of a sudden, before we knew it, we're building miniatures on Star Wars again.
One of the most iconic parts of Star Wars is John Williams' score. So creating the Mandalorian score was a daunting challenge.
For me, John Williams' Star Wars music is, I think, the best film music ever written. You know, there is a little pressure, and I think the only way that I could do it was to try something completely different.
And I just set up my studio with a bunch of different instruments. I had guitars, a bunch of different guitars, piano, a lot of 70s synthesizers, drum kit, Rhodes, a bunch of synth guitars. I just started to think about a lot about kind of going back to how I remember Star Wars and the impact it had with me as a little kid. And I bought a set of recorders that everyone played when they were a kid, because I know I wanted to take a step away from the computers. That's kind of the way I used to write music when I was a kid. I was just alone in my studio with all these instruments. So I wanted to recreate that feeling. Something that came about in the very beginning was just this. I didn't really think this was going to work, because it was like, this is so simple. In my head, when I'm thinking about writing music for Star Wars, I set the bar very high, and from the get-go, I was like, well, this is too simple. But the more I listened to it, I played it over and over again. And then starting off with the flute, that gave me inspired to go over to the drums and play this drum rhythm. That made me inspired to go to the piano, play the piano. So a whole song came out of just this idea.
So we recorded this with a 70-piece orchestra in LA. You need to have 70
humans in the room playing their instruments together to create the waves and the air to make it feel human. It's like also like bell-like and childlike a little bit, but also has kind of a mystery to it, and it feels old and new. It's like when you play a piano, when you play a recorder and a guitar, it resonates. You know, it gives something back to you. Your fingers, you can feel it in your body. You know, when you sit by the computer, you give all this information, but you don't get anything back. It's almost like solving a puzzle.
All of this work was in service of one character, one moment, that would resonate around the world.
Started off the whole series with the Baby Yoda reveal with the Grogu. That was a secret that everybody was really blown away by.
To make the reveal worth it, they had to make Grogu feel real. Their first idea was to make him CGI.
When we knew the child was going to be in the show, ILM started building the CG character. And the assumption was, because when we talked with Dave and John, was that it was always going to be CG. There would be a puppet and it was going to be held, it was going to be in the background, and whenever it came close to camera, we would replace it with the CG version. John even wanted to control the performance, so ILM London actually developed an iPhone app where John could perform into the phone and it would translate onto the CG version of the baby. And then we were reviewing the model build with John, and he came into the review and he said, just hold on a minute, I need to tell you what I've seen.
What he saw came from the head puppeteer for Grogu.
If we could have that little child be there and be real and have actors really looking at it, that, you know, just maybe we could make this thing work. And I put together a test. We were starting to run out of time, about 2 weeks before shooting, and I got all our guys at Legacy, and we put together, in my mind, I was putting together a how-to video of how to shoot Grogu. And I think it was that moment when John saw that test that he thought, oh, maybe we can do a little bit more with this. So that was Grogu's entry into the world of Star Wars.
Now they had to keep Grogu a secret. What followed was one of the most carefully managed secrets in recent television history.
That was a big secret to keep, but John and I were pretty adamant that it would be the best thing for fans if we could get them to the finish line and they could experience it in the episode.
Because the way the cat usually gets out of the bag with that stuff is merchandising and toy catalogs. We really wanted to have it be that you had to watch it yourself, so that every time you watch the show, there are new twists and secrets that come out. But that requires a lot of restraint from the people who are footing the bill, saying that they're going to hold back on certain things so that the public doesn't know ahead of time.
I'll confess, I've never gotten into trouble, but I'm not the best at keeping secrets. And this was the first time that I took you very seriously. I didn't tell my family. It was just exciting for us to get to the premiere of the show without anyone finding out about the baby, really.
Yes.
The reveal worked. Grogu became a cultural icon, so of course a second season came along.
That we went from a very first-person, ground-level adventure with new characters and new planets, slowly working our way into weaving ourselves into the fabric of Star Wars more as we introduced some legacy characters into the second season.
We had decided it was going to be Luke, that made the most sense to us, and we were so into that, and how are we going to do that? When they said, and I looked at you because I know you love R2, and I said, John, you know what it means to be a Luke? He said, what? I said, it means we get R2. And that just, the whole room just stopped.
The big question was, how do you create a surprise that compares to the Grogu reveal?
It's very hard to keep a secret nowadays, especially with Star Wars, because people are so curious about it. And there are so many people involved with the process, with visual effects, finishing, making it, filming it, at the studios, everything. Every piece of casting leaked. And we were so scared right up till it aired that our surprise cameo was going to leak too.
There were two shoots, right? So there was one shoot with Mark Hamill and the VFX crew. That was a small shoot. But then we actually did the full scene with everybody. But when you see Pedro's face, looking at him,
don't be afraid.
He is, to me, that's what makes it all click, is that moment of saying goodbye. And
to have the very last episode, to have Mark Hamill actually on set filming and us using whatever technology we had available to de-age him and try to make him look as much like he did in the old films.
We even had a CGI head for that character, so that when you saw the dailies or the editing room, it looked like that was the character.
We started in season 2 for just effectively what was 8 shots. See, Mark was there. He was coaching, he was doing performances, he was doing lines, he was really helping to kind of guide his performance. But obviously once we're in the head-to-toe shot, we were doing a face swap. Jon decided to pull visual effects, myself, the rest of the team into the casting reviews. So they actually created a false project, throwing a casting call out to somebody that needed to be able to perform like Luke, and they would mocap them. Nothing to do with our show. And so we started getting these videos, and it was like iPhone videos and things of these folks casting, and that's where we met this guy, Graham Hamilton. He actually did a face swap on him, on his casting video, to show that this guy has got what we think we need to make this work. And so once we saw that, obviously Dave and Jon locked him in, and they had a call with him. And he thought he was going to talk to somebody about this fake project, and instead, Jon and Dave come on Zoom and tell him what he's going to be doing. So then that started the process of us trying to work out how we were going to make him look the way you kind of saw on the screen.
He would listen to what Mark would do, and he would channel that. And when we would be doing our thing with Grogu, we'd do it with Mark, we'd do it with Graham. And he was amazing. He really was.
But I think the point that you guys are making is that it's all about performance, right? So, that's sort of the common thread for Jon Favreau's vision, is all about performance, enhanced performance for the actors who are in the stagecraft volume, for holding, Grogu, but also for bringing Mark Hamill into the process and making sure that the performance resonates.
And now, 7 years after his debut, Grogu remains a staple of pop culture, even through a mixed third season and controversy. And before long, many more movie franchises made the jump to TV. And eventually, Mando and Grogu cemented themselves in Hollywood history. Thanks for watching. Subscribe.